Hey guys, it's Michelle, and today's video is going to be a very highly requested video for you guys, and it's going to be all about the Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is a very popular serial killer. You guys have probably heard of him. You probably heard of him if you're younger. You might have heard that like people joke like saying Ted Cruz is the Zodiac Killer, but I mean it's basically impossible, so that's not part of the theory. But I'm going to be talking about the Zodiac Killer, like who he killed, and then the theories and who he could possibly be. So let's get into it. So the Zodiac Killer was a super famous serial killer that was prominent in the late 1960s and the early 1970s. Yet after all of these years, we still do not know the identity of the Zodiac Killer, and there are only a few leads, but a lot of the leads could be kind of debunked, so we really have no idea who this could be. Zodiac Killer was active in Northern California specifically, and the Zodiac Killer is also known to have killed definitely at least 5 people and to have injured 2 people. However, the Zodiac Killer himself claimed to have murdered 37 people, so there are a lot of unsolved murder mysteries that people believe could be done by the Zodiac Killer, but these 5 were the ones that were positively done by the Zodiac Killer. So we are going to talk about these 5 specific killings and how they connect and just all of the stuff. We're just gonna dive in. The first ever Zodiac killings occurred on December 20th, 1968 in Vallejo, California. David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were sitting in a parked car where they were shot and killed. This seemed to be like a popular theme with the Zodiac killing. It would typically be a couple that was killed or injured, and yes. The next shooting happened just a few minutes away from the first one, and this happened on July 4th, 1969, so months later. The same thing happened where the victims, Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mojo, I don't really know how to pronounce that. They were just like chilling in their parked car, and the Zodiac Killer approached them and shot them. Sadly, Darlene died, but Michael lived, which is obviously good because he had a description of the Zodiac Killer, which was a young white male between the age of 26 and 30 years old, heavy set, light brown hair, and around 5'8" to 5'9". And this obviously becomes important because as we go on with the killings, there are more and more witnesses that ultimately will lead to the drawing of the Zodiac Killer that you probably have all seen. The letters from the Zodiac Killer started to come in a few weeks after the second killing, and the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times Herald all received identical handwritten letters from someone claiming that they were the killer. And a few days later, the San Francisco Examiner received another letter from the same person where the killer first refers to himself as the Zodiac Killer, saying, "This is the Zodiac speaking." So this is where the entirety of like the name the Zodiac Killer comes into play, is because that's what the killer identified himself with. On September 27th, 1969, a couple, Brian Harthel, and Celia Shepard, were sitting picnicking in Napa County, California at Lake Berryessa. This comes into play later, so remember this specific killing. So they were sitting there just chilling, picnicking, whatever, enjoying Napa County. Somebody came up to them and stabbed them. They both survived, but 2 days later, Celia sadly died in the hospital. Brian lived, and they claimed that the stabber was a man with a hood and a zodiac symbol on his chest, which just creeps me out. Last definite killing of the Zodiac Killer was Paul Stine. Paul Stine was a taxi driver, and he was doing his taxiing service and taking somebody off somewhere on October 11th, 1969 in San Francisco, California. His passenger shot him and killed him, and the witnesses ran over and had all of the same descriptions as the previous Zodiac killings. White male, stocky, 25 to 30 years old, 5'8" to 5'9" in height, reddish brown hair, and this time heavily rimmed glasses. So this is where the famous picture of the Zodiac Killer comes into play. this is the description, but it also matched the previous descriptions in the past. The Zodiac Killer continued to send letters through 1971 until 1974. He sent his final letter that said, "Me, 37, San Francisco Police Department, 0." So that's what people think indicates that he killed 37 people. One time in the Zodiac Killer's notes he wrote, "My name is," and then like put a ton of different characters, which that comes into play later as well. So now we're going to talk about the different suspects. The most prime suspect is Arthur Lee Allen, and he is probably the #1 person that people speculate to be the Zodiac Killer because of the crazy amount of evidence pointing towards it. So on the night of the third crime that I told you guys to remember, where the couple was stabbed when they were picnicking in Lake Berryessa in Napa County, California, Arthur Lee Allen told his family that he was going to that exact location, and he came home covered in blood with a bloody knife found in his car. So, I mean, and one of Arthur's friends, Don Cheney, said Arthur referred to himself as the Zodiac way before the killer ever did. When Arthur Lee Allen was interviewed, he said his favorite book was The Most Dangerous Game, a book about a guy who hunted humans, and this book was also referred to by the Zodiac Killer in his first letter. He also wore a Zodiac brand watch with the same Zodiac symbol the killer used, and police searched his trailer home and found dissected animals and bloody knives, but no direct correlation to any of the killings. In 1974, Arthur Lee Allen went to jail for 3 years for child molestation, which, by the way, how do you only go to jail for 3 years for that? That's fucking insane. That's like, should be life. Like, that's crazy to me, but whatever. And no Zodiac letters were received during this time, so that's why people kind of also make the connection. In 1987, an inmate told a police officer that Arthur Lee Allen had actually said that he murdered Paul Stine, which was the last Zodiac killing that was known. And in 1991, Mike Maggio, who survived one of the previous Zodiac attacks, picked out Arthur Lee Allen in a lineup of photos as the killer. So, I mean, that's kind of like proof right there. Because of this, the police were allowed to search his home again, and this time they found bomb formulas, constructed bombs, and tapes about the Zodiac Killer. So, I mean, sadly, his handwriting did not match, and this is another important thing, is in 2002, they realized that there was saliva samples on one of the stamps that the Zodiac Killer actually gave, but it like wasn't enough evidence to just like identify like a person just from that. I guess, I don't know, maybe the technology wasn't good enough, / the stamp was obviously old by 2002. However, it was unlikely that this was a match to Arthur Lee Allen because of all the accusations, he had to have his DNA tested, and apparently both the handwriting and the stamps were not a match. And not only that, but he does not really look at all like the drawing of the Zodiac Killer. The next most popular suspect of the Zodiac Killer is probably Earl Van Best Jr., who his son, Gary Stewart, literally believes that his father was the Zodiac Killer, which is obviously, I mean, it's quite elite. If you think your own dad is fucking Zodiac Killer, then like, girl. He looks fucking scarily similar to the drawing, the most like infamous drawing of the Zodiac Killer. In fact, when I was going to research this, I like looked up like the Zodiac Killer and to find like the pictures of the drawing, and I literally thought that there was a movie about the Zodiac Killer, and Earl Van Best Jr., like his picture, I thought that that was like the person who played the Zodiac Killer. Like before I knew anything about the case, when I was going to research it, I was just like shook. Like, I was really like, wait, he looks just like him. So, I mean, he clearly looks exactly like the depictions of the Zodiac Killer. Not only that, but on the note that we were talking about earlier, how the Zodiac Killer wrote "My name is" and then like a bunch of characters, his name fits perfectly into those characters. Like, it's enough letters. I mean, no one knows what the characters mean, but it's enough characters to be his name. Gary Stewart wanted to have his father's DNA tested when in 2002 they discovered that they could test the stamps, but he was not allowed to have his DNA tested, and Gary believes that this proves that this is a police cover-up. He thinks the police departments involved were corrupt at the time and still are, and are trying to cover up the Zodiac Killer. I don't know. I find this really interesting. Obviously, it'll probably remain unsolved for the rest of time, which is fucking scary because if this guy was around 30 in the 1970s, he's probably still alive, and yeah, that fucking terrifies me. I don't know, in my opinion, I feel like there was probably multiple Zodiac killers, but like they knew they were working together, or at least there was somebody who was writing the letters so that if the actual Zodiac killer was Arthur Lee Allen, or say, for example, that he wouldn't match or have the same saliva as the letters. I don't know. There's so many things that could be possible with this. It could literally be anybody, and it's so freaky that we will never know the answers to it, but I hope you guys found this video to be interesting. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments your theories and thoughts on the Zodiac Killer in general. It's fucking terrifying to me. But yeah, make sure you follow me on Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. I'm always posting really dope shit on there, and if you want to check out my latest video, you can click right here and click right here to subscribe for new videos every single day, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye!